Hey guys, what's up? So in today's video, I want to cover Nio. Now I have some good news and bad news, but mostly good. The bad news isn't necessarily bad news, but there could be some downward pressure on Nio's share price in the short term. So we'll be covering that later in the video. But first, I'm going to be going through the good news and just looking at Nio right now where it stands. So as of right now, Nio is trading about $46 a share, and they've gone on a really spectacular run over this past year. It's literally 24x'd in the last year. So this is pretty phenomenal. So it's not too surprising to see that some people and some researchers are suggesting that Nio could see some downside in the short term. And really, I mean, it doesn't take a genius to look at this and be like, yeah, they could see a correction. So nothing alarming. The business still looks very strong in the long term. But the good news I want to cover is actually about Ray Dalio investing into Nio. So if you don't know who Ray Dalio is, he's a billionaire hedge fund manager and philanthropist who has served as co-chief investment officer of Bridgewater Associates since 1985. And he founded Bridgewater in 1975 in New York. Now, this guy is a billionaire. He's one of the smartest investors of all time. For most of people in the investment community, they definitely know who Ray Dalio is. He has some very interesting philosophies, and he's very bullish on China. So it's not surprising to see that he's buying Nio. And I've been trying to kind of push China as well lately. I've been looking at emerging markets in previous videos, and China is one of the most compelling emerging markets coming up, and that's the same kind of mindset that Ray Dalio has looking at China. It's looking like a really good opportunity for investors. So anyways, let's take a look at Ray Dalio and how much of Nio he's been buying. So this was 2 months ago. It says Ray Dalio bought 6.6 million worth of Nio stock. This is outdated. He's actually bought a lot more now. And then we go here to Yahoo Finance. It says Dalio's Bridgewater nearly double stake in Nio as institutional investors pile into EV maker. Now, Nio has been seeing a lot of institutional investments lately, which is really good. It's a really positive sign for the stock. So Bridgewater Associates, the world's biggest hedge fund with over 130 billion in assets under management, held about 1.5 million shares of Nio, valued at 33.3 million as of September 30th. And this was according to the recent 13F filing. This represents an 83% increase from the 856,000 shares the hedge fund held at the end of June, which was valued at 6.6 million. So they purchased a massive amount of more shares of Nio. Now, it's obviously still a pretty small portion of the portfolio, considering they hold about 33 million worth of Nio, where they have 130 billion in asset management. So very small portion, but it still does say something when you see a credible fund like Bridgewater buying into Nio. Now, it's not just Bridgewater, though, that's buying into Nio. It's actually a lot of institutions. You can see here the institutional ownership of Nio is about valued at 11.315 billion. So 11 billion out of what, about a 60 billion market cap right now. So institutions are definitely piling into it. According to Fintel, institutional ownership now accounts for about 50% of Nio's outstanding shares of 1 billion. So there you go. Institutional ownerships are buying up Nio at the masses right now. It's a good sign if you're a retail investor that got in before this, because that's really the secret to making multiple X return on your money, is getting in before institutional investments. If you get in after, it makes things a bit more difficult to double, triple, 10x your money. But we'll go into that, what I think if Nio still has a long ways to run, or if we're going to see a correction in the short term. I'll give some of my thoughts on that. But the next thing I do want to cover, it does talk about down here, the increased interest among institutional investors reflects their confidence in the Chinese EV maker in its future. This comes in contrast to Citron's call, what suggests an unsustainable valuation. Now, Citron recently released a research paper that is suggesting that Nio could lose 50% of its value in the short term. And I'm going to cover that just in a second. We're not going to go into much detail on that, though. A lot of other YouTubers have already covered Citron's research paper, so I'll just give some of my thoughts on that. Okay, so this is Citron's research paper. Now, it says here, Citron pulls the plug on Nio 2 years after our controversial recommendation price target of $25. So 2 years ago, Nio was trading at just $7 when Citron recommended buying the stock, as the company and its charismatic leader William Li intrigued us. After a rocky road of trading, Nio has found itself in uncharted territory that can never be justified by its current standing in the Chinese EV market or its near-term prospects. So if you haven't read through Citron, I suggest you do so, but there's literally been like every YouTuber has already covered this, so I won't bother. But yeah, essentially they are suggesting that Nio has overran itself and it's going to see a harsh correction in the short term. And actually they do kind of try to justify what they're talking about, which I like, because there's a lot of papers out there or shorts that are just saying the stock is going to lose half its value without actually trying to justify its reasons. Where Citron, it makes a compelling argument, I guess. But let's just take a look at what Nio's done in the last year, and it wouldn't be surprising to see a correction. Now, if we look at Yahoo Finance here, we can see that Nio is trading at about $46. Okay, their market cap though is what's important. Their market cap is 62 billion. So it's a pretty big company now, considering this company was not very big a year ago, which I'll show you in just a second. But another thing to take in mind here is their beta is 2.61. Now, beta represents how volatile the stock is. So because it's 2.61, this is basically this beta has worked in the favor of Nio this past year. It's shot up like literally 24x in just the last year. And of course their beta is going to be high then because it's increased in value very fast. But on the flip side, because it does have such a high beta, it could lose its value just as fast. So you got to keep that in mind with this. And then they have an incredibly negative EPS of negative 44. But if you're investing in the long term, you shouldn't be too worried about this. They're definitely going to be able to clear up this EPS and probably turn it positive in the not too distant future. Now, just to understand how much value Nio has actually increased over this past year, you can see in September 30th of 2019, this company had a market cap of 1.67 billion. Now, fast forward 1 year, we're at 60 billion. So they've almost 60x'd in a year, which is just phenomenal. This is not something you see very often. And if you look at their price to sales ratio, their price to sales ratio was 1.81 at that time. Now it's at 40. Now 40 is a steep price to sales ratio for any company in the world. That is something that you need to understand. If we look at Tesla, for example, Tesla at the same time last year had a 1.67 PS ratio just like Nio, but now Tesla's price to sales ratio is at 14. So just think about it for a second. Tesla, which is, you know, by most metrics considered overvalued, and most people would consider the stock overvalued, has a PS ratio of 14. And then Nio has a PS of 40. So that is a little bit alarming. Honestly, that is really insane considering its PS ratio is 3 times that of Tesla. However, at the end of the day, what moves the stock? It's all supply and demand. If there's more buyers than sellers, the stock is going to trade upwards. So until some kind of sentiment changes in the market where people start to get worried about Nio and its valuation and maybe it can't keep up to this kind of growth, then at that time maybe we could see a harsh correction. But we're still seeing a lot of demand for the stock. It's still trading higher month over month. Anyways, this is something to keep in mind. It is a little bit scary to see a PS of 40. So yeah, in the short term, I'm under the belief that Nio is gonna probably have a hard time running any higher than this. It might just stay stagnant at 46, and if they blow out their next quarter, then maybe it could run higher. But they got some serious expectations to meet. So if they don't meet those expectations, then yeah, you could see a pretty harsh correction. But if you got in Nio at a decent price, I would not worry at all. And again, this is just kind of short term. Long term, Nio is looking really good. It's definitely tackling the biggest EV market in the world, and it's well positioned to possibly be the leader of that market. It's really just between Nio and Tesla. So yeah, don't worry if you're a long-term investor. Just be aware if you do see a 30%-ish correction, it's likely because it has overran itself, and it is due for a correction at some point. This isn't obviously sustainable to be 24xing its valuation every year. At some point, that's either going to slow down or correct and then move up slowly as it should. Yeah, so anyways, guys, that's really all I have for this video. I just wanted to give you an update on Ray Dalio, who's just a super credible billionaire investor in charge of the biggest hedge fund in the world, is buying Nio. And I found that actually some pretty good news. And Ray Dalio is somebody who I follow myself, and he's the one who got me interested in buying Chinese stocks. So yeah, anyways, there's that. And of course, I want to make sure you guys are just aware of the risk of the short term that Nio could see that downward pressure. But again, nobody knows. This is all supply and demand of how many people are buying and selling the stock. Some kind of sentiment needs to change in the market for this to actually drop. Stocks don't just suddenly plummet 30% because their valuation reaches a point where it's super high. Valuation isn't what makes the stock drop. It's sentiment that makes it drop. So yeah, if I had to guess on it, I would say in the next few months, Nio could drop a bit, but definitely long term, this is still an amazing buy. I would just be holding it myself and not buying any more shares right now. But I definitely wouldn't be looking to sell any shares of Nio either. But yeah, that's all I have for this video. Please drop a thumbs up on the video if you like this content. And feel free to subscribe to this channel. I do upload stock videos almost every day of the week, and I try to find content that's going to benefit you guys. And yeah, anyways, thanks for watching till the end. I'll see you guys in the next video.